All right, so hello everybody. I'm Mark from Bandology. I'm the music and research coordinator, and today we have Thomas Mason. He's a music school teacher at a team school, which is a school in Mississauga. And yeah, it's great to have you on today. I'm really looking forward to talking a little bit about music, about education, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so thanks again for coming on. And how about we just start off just briefly telling us a little bit about yourself, about your current position. Yeah.
Hi, Mark. I'm Thomas Mason. Thanks for having me on. So I'm a music school teacher at Team School, and I fell into the job like I started as a supply teacher at the school, and then the music teacher left, and I got the music job because I have a music background, and I had told them when they hired me that I really wanted to teach music there, and if there's any opportunities to do that, we know. And then I got the music job. So that's what I'm doing now. But I went to U of T just like yourself, and been playing music for a while, guitar mainly. Started playing when I was probably 11.
Was there anything specific that drew you to the guitar?
I always wanted to play the guitar since I was like 4. I remember seeing this movie, actually, Back to the Future.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen the movie?
I have, yeah.
The scene where he's playing like Johnny Be Good, and I remember I always wanted to play guitar. My parents were like, "It's too loud. Like we're not going to get you an electric guitar." But then eventually they kind of just caved and they
Hmm.
got me one. And they always thought it'd be super loud. I remember because in the movie, like he's always cranking everything and like he
Yeah,
blows himself away with the guitar.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I convinced them like just get me like a little amp, and I wanted to play electric guitar, right? So yeah.
Was there anything specific? Because I know a lot of people who start out on electric guitar, um, they don't immediately gravitate towards jazz. And it's like you go to classical guitar, usually most people start classical guitar in terms of like school or any sort of like private lessons, their parents force them. But everybody really wants to just like play classic rock or metal or anything like that. Was there anything specific that got you into jazz, or did you follow the pretty standard
Ah,
trajectory of rock and then jazz that a lot of people did?
I followed that standard trajectory for sure. Like I just played rock and roll, classic rock. I was really into blues actually, so that
Mm,
was probably the link there. But to be honest, I kind of forced myself to listen to jazz because I knew I was going to go to school. I was probably like 18, and I still wasn't totally into jazz. Like I was into blues and classic rock, and then I knew I had to do jazz or classical if I was going to go to school.
mm.
So um, I just got a bunch of like Wes Montgomery records because I remember like I just like looked up, oh, who should I be listening to on jazz guitar?
Yeah.
And I checked out Wes Montgomery and like George Benson, and it blew my mind the stuff that they were playing. I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to learn how to play this stuff
Yeah.
and go to school for music. But that's what I did. I kind of neglected like my roots in a way when I listened to all that jazz stuff. I was like, I'm not going to listen to rock anymore. I'm just going to like, immerse myself in jazz, which is, I don't know if that's the best way to do it, right? Like you shouldn't not listen to the stuff you like, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what I did.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel the same way. Like it's sort of when you're going to school for like that specific genre and you know that you're going to be like graded on it and you're going to be surrounded by people that like that's like their entire life. It really like it kind of forces you. It was sort of my first like um situation where, yeah, sort of like that I had to like force myself to really like focus and listen to one specific thing and really control what I'm doing and like use it as like it's almost like practice. It's like you have to, like, today I'm going to be listening to this record. Like maybe I don't particularly want to, but like I kind of have to because I'm trying to get through like this entire person's discography so that I like know if somebody calls a particular standard that I can play it like this way or that way. So I know, yeah, for sure. Like I know the summer before university for me, I like made sure that I was listening to everything I could, and it was like actually tiring the amount of records that I was making myself listen to. And I honestly, I agree with you. I don't think that's the way to go, because by the end of it, you just get really burnt out with and it's like, as soon as you force yourself to do it, it like takes out any sort of enjoyment, and it just becomes like an academic exercise, something that you're doing just like for the sake of practicing and not so much like actually enjoying the music. But yeah, no, I definitely found that to be the case as well, that it took a bit of effort to sort of get into it. Yeah. Speaking of the University of Toronto, yeah. So I think I'm in the same program. Were you in jazz performance when you went?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in jazz performance. But I didn't go to U of T straight out of high school. I went to Mohawk College first.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, I couldn't like read music that well, if at all, when I
Hmm.
applied to Mohawk. I wasn't like ready for U of T
Okay.
music, so I had to go through Mohawk. And then when I went to U of T, I started in like second year because I skipped first year because I had gone to Mohawk.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember when I got into second year, like I was already like in my early 20s, and a lot of the first year and second year students were like 18, 19,
Yeah.
and they were like freaks like on their instruments. They were so good. And I was like, how are these kids so good, so young, you know?
Yeah.
I was a little intimidated.
So overall, like throughout the program, do you want to tell me a little bit about sort of how it was? Uh, I know like I'm sort of entering the last half of it, and as slowly as you go throughout the program, you sort of get a different perspective every year, and especially after you graduate, looking back, it might seem completely different from what it actually was. So yeah, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about the program? Sort of what you got out of it, or
Yeah, for
pros
sure.
and cons to being there, and yeah. Yeah.
So the program's certainly intense. As you know, it's like you have to be pretty devoted to your instrument, right? And
Yeah.
it's like rigorous practice. Um, Looking back, like it was intense and it was great, and I think I took for granted all the opportunities I had to play and to be with other musicians, right?
Yeah.
Um, you have ensembles. I think you're in like two ensembles every year,
Yeah.
and you have to rehearse with the ensembles, and you get to play at the Rex. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys still do that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Not this past year, but yeah, we have been. Uh,
you,
yeah.
yeah. So there's so many opportunities, and like I think when I was there, I was just way too hard on myself, and like didn't have as much fun as I probably could have. Like I
Mm,
was always obsessed with like getting better, and like um worried about what people thought of me like on my instrument, or like
yeah.
right, like I want to sound this good. Do other people think I sound good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I gonna get hired for this gig?
Yeah.
Like why is he getting gigs, or like why aren't I getting these gigs? And it's like
Yeah.
I've like wasted so much time worrying about that, and
Mm.
I could have been just practicing and like getting better, which I was practicing, but like thinking that way certainly clouds up your mind a bit, right? And you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like it's an interesting climate, because yeah, exactly. They sort of like I remember the first couple weeks of my first year, all the profs were saying the same thing, which is like, this program, it's like supposed to create like super individual musicians that like are really independent and confident in their abilities, and then meanwhile, like everybody, especially in like first year, is like utterly like like they're like, look at all these upper years, they pretty much control the entire like Toronto jazz gig like market. There's no room for us. This guy's been like shedding for like this many years, and he's already had this many opportunities, and it's just like it's really I just remember like yeah, you have to hit the ground running as soon as you go there. It's such a um like everybody says that it's not very competitive. Like everybody just loves the music and it's all about the music, and there's sort of like a general understanding that everybody's working towards like a singular goal, which is to get better at jazz. And but then at the same time, like literally everybody also doesn't really care about that at all, and they're just comparing themselves with everyone next to them. And it's really funny. It's a bit of a paradox. Like I just remember that was really, really like it was so distinct how different like the profs were talking about the program and then what it actually was. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely, I mean, it's still the same. So I mean, how did you find that? Did you think that, I mean, I know you're talking that it was sort of a waste, all that competitiveness. Did it benefit you in any way, do you think? Did it sort of like hone your skills, make you focus a little bit more than you would have? Um,
Uh, I think it affected me negatively. Like
mm,
it wasn't good for me. I think like having that competitive aspect to you is good,
mm,
like or can be good, right? I know a lot of students that were super competitive, and it really worked for them. Like
yeah,
they got better, and they were like they had that tunnel vision.
mm,
But for me, it was like it made me like not practice as efficiently,
yeah,
or like I was kind of like practicing for the wrong reasons.
mm, yeah,
And sometimes I remember there'd be like group sessions, like let's say like a group ear training session. And like this was an opportunity where I could get like really better at ear training if I
yeah,
just practiced with my friends, but like I wouldn't go because I wouldn't want like someone to know how bad I was at like ear
yeah,
training or something, right?
yeah.
Or like how
No,
bad my ears was. But like I should have just went to those sessions, right? I
mm,
would have like improved way more than if I, did what I did, which was just like shy away and like work on
yeah,
my own.
yeah,
But like working together with like other musicians is like you get better like way quicker, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think that's like one of the like pitfalls of like post-secondary music education, because it's such a like that's such a valuable thing, and they try to do that with ensembles and tutorials and all sorts of things. But like yeah, it's just they put everybody like at that point everybody's like kind of around the same level, and then they just put everybody together, and they just sort of let everyone figure it out, and they tell you that like, oh, you should like, oh, for sure, like practice with your friends for like next month's ear training test, and nobody wants to do it because everybody is unprepared. And like exactly what you said, that's definitely happened to me plenty of times, that you don't want to like uh completely embarrass yourself in front of everybody else who's like miles ahead, or however well developed in whatever area. But yeah, I definitely feel like a lot more like, I think there should be some sort of way to like, I guess, build some sort of sense of community. I know that it would probably be difficult to actually come up with something like embedded in the program to allow that, some sort of like team building exercises, even like a course on like first year on like the importance of um like, I know that they have a like a jazz ensemble course that teaches you how to like run an ensemble in later years, third and fourth year.
Oh,
I
really?
think I'm
That
not.
must be a new thing.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
going
I
over
never
a
had
course.
that
Oh yeah, okay,
because
maybe I
we
might be
had
wrong, but
we had jazz pedagogy
yeah, I think
with
that's,
Gord Foot. Is
yeah,
Gord's
yeah,
still there, right?
yeah.
And does he
um
still teach the big band?
yeah, yeah, so he's
Okay.
I think he's in uh yeah, I'm not sure which one. I This past year has completely wiped my memory of like big bands. The only thing I've
Oh
been a part
yeah.
of are small ensembles, so I don't remember which specific one. But yeah, Gordfoot's still there. Um, and yeah, something like that, some sort of like, I guess, some type of course that could be crafted to I don't know, build up the sense of community in the program, and give kids like gives students opportunities to actually like work with each other rather than the like the hyper competitive climate that sort of exists. Though of course, I don't know, ensembles and all of that like foster that sort of thing, but um, I don't know. It's a really tricky thing, just sort of like how the program should run and all of that. Um, but
I know what you're
yeah,
thinking about though, like
yeah,
almost like a mentorship program could be neat,
yeah,
or like a senior student works with a first year.
yeah. That's actually yeah.
That could
That's a
be
better
right.
yeah, yeah,
That could be something that gets put in place, but it's hard, right? Like to put things in action at U of T. I
Mm.
know that, right?
Yeah. Especially this year, there's a whole bunch of I don't know how much you've stayed sort of in contact with either alumni or the program itself, but there's a whole bunch of like well, there's a whole bunch of controversy with the Faculty of Music this year, just as a result of you know increased like awareness of a whole bunch of social issues that is sort of going across Canada. But for some reason, there's a like this year specifically, there's a huge push towards like fixing some of those problems with
Cutting.
the program. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess moving on, just moving away from the undergraduate career of Thomas Mason, um, there is sort of speaking of like as you go further and further into your undergraduate degree, one has it seems like fewer and fewer options in terms of what to do after. As it gets closer and closer, it gets a little bit like muddy in terms of what people want to do. So I guess I just wanted to ask what sort of um, like what sort of steps happened after or maybe right at the end of your degree at the University of Toronto to sort of push you in or make you decide which sort of path you want to go with. In this case, I guess teaching.
So at the end of U of T, I was feeling like, what am I gonna do? Like after this, am I gonna be able to make it as a musician? Like, um, and I was already teaching a lot of private lessons, so I was doing that like at the end of my graduate degree, and then in the summer before like my first year, um, without being in post secondary school. Like I was just teaching at like different studios and I was teaching privately. And then I had a bunch of different gigs, like playing weddings and
Mm,
things like that.
yeah.
Um, and in September, I had a friend that offered me, well, she didn't offer me the job. She knew that the school was looking for a music teacher, the school she worked at.
Mm,
It was a private school, like an elementary school. And she just messaged me one day and was like, would you want to work at a school teaching music, like an elementary school? And I was like, sure. I could give it a shot, you know?
mm.
And I went in for the interview and I remember they asked me if I played recorder and like ukulele. And I actually didn't play those instruments, but I said that I did.
Mm,
I remember I had this teacher that like, he always told me, his name was Carl Horton, actually. He passed away, but Carl
mm.
Horton, he worked at Mohawk. He told me, always say yes. He worked in like jingles.
Yeah,
Like he would get a call, could you write a jingle for like Walmart or something? And he was
yeah.
like, always say yes, and then you'll figure it out.
Mm,
So I said, yeah, I could play ukulele and I could play recorder. And then I didn't, so I had to go home and like buy a ukulele, buy a recorder, buy the
mm,
books and like learn how to play recorder just a little bit and like ukulele.
yeah.
And then, so I got the job at this private school teaching music, but it was only temporary, like for a couple months
Mm,
while this teacher was on like sick leave. So I taught grade 1 to 8 music, and it was nothing like I had been doing. Right? I'd been teaching like one-on-one guitar lessons, and I'd been playing jazz gigs, but this was something totally different, like working
mm,
with young kids, like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, teaching them recorder and like
yeah.
classes. And it was so much work, but it was like, it was really rewarding. It was more rewarding than the things I'd been doing, just teaching one-on-one lessons at studios, because some of the kids like didn't even want to learn, right? That's, you know how it
Yeah.
is with some of these studios, like their parents put them there and they're like, okay, and the kid like doesn't even listen to music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I fell in love with that, like teaching kids music and giving them opportunities and just
Mm.
like creating a sense of community in a classroom through
Yeah.
music. And that's when I decided that I wanted to go to teachers college after I had that opportunity.
Mm.
And then, yeah, I went to Niagara University the next year for 2 years. And then, yeah, I did a primary junior instead of like intermediate senior,
Mm.
because I wanted to still teach kids. At team school, and I'm a music teacher, so it's like, it's awesome. It's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I definitely didn't see myself doing this in my first year at U of T.
Mm. Yeah.
But that's kind of,
It just froze for a little bit, but I think it's back.
is it
Yeah.
good?
I think it's back. Okay.
Okay.
Oh no. Okay. It should be good now. I see you moving.
Okay.
Yeah. The marvels of video editing will remove that entire pause. So I'm just gonna uh, so we just had some technical difficulties, but we're back and we will continue. Um, so yeah, you were saying you just started. It was sort of a lucky. Oh, we're frozen again.
Oh
Okay,
no. I
no,
hope,
it's good.
is
It's
it
good. It's good. It's back. Okay, so we just had technical difficulties, but we're back and we're going to be continuing on. So Thomas, you were just saying the sort of it was a lucky chance that you got this opportunity to start, and so I just wanted to ask, were there any like major difficulties or challenges that started out that you just had to like quickly adapt to? I know you were saying you didn't have, it was completely different, so it was there anything like really noticeable that you were like, oh, I really have to work on this, or you know, looking forward to teaching teachers college to get some experience to overcome some of these challenges, or was it all smooth sailing?
It was definitely not smooth sailing. Like I could say it was, and then like, oh yeah, I had everything under control.
Yeah.
But I acted kind of like I had everything under control, but I was panicking because I
Mm.
had, when I first started, I had like grade 1, 2, grade 3, like every grade, right? Music. And it was
Yeah.
like, they all have their own curriculum and they all have, and I like wasn't really following the curriculum.
Mm.
And I was just trying to do different things for every grade.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't notice when I first started teaching is um, how like young brains work and like the whole developmental process, right?
Mm.
Like you can't really expect young kids to do certain things just by telling them, right? Like when
Yeah.
they're not adults, right? They just don't understand.
Yeah.
And then like I was trying to teach a lot of like I just came out of U of T, right?
Mm.
And then I was teaching like young kids, and I was always trying to like teach them theory and like kind of complex stuff that I
Yeah.
didn't know at that time. So I'm not sure why I wanted them to learn that,
Mm.
but I had to adapt. Like I had to learn what kids could understand and like could process. and like not give kids too much information or like useless information. It might not be useless like to me, but they don't care what like Ionian scale is, or like what these major modes are, and like
Yeah.
what chords go with them.
Yeah.
And like, but so it's tough because I went from U of T, like heavy theory, like jazz education, to like teaching young kids, right? So sometimes I would try to like teach them like theory and like Roman numeral stuff and like scales and chords, and they're like, "Mr. Mason, what are you talking about? Like, we don't want to learn this." And I was like, "Oh, like why not? This is cool." But it wasn't like cool to me when I was young, so I don't know why I expected them to really dig it. You know, like these like 10-year-olds. And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, maybe you guys don't like this stuff." And I remember I'd always like stop and think about what to do, because I wasn't always like prepared with lessons, because I fell into the job, and like I'd come from this jazz background, right? Everything's about like improvising. So I was like, "Oh, I'll just improvise my way through these like lessons," and I could just like stand at the front of class like thinking, and there's like kids are like, "What are you thinking about, Mr. Mason? Like, what are we doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Let's learn these intervals." And they were like, "What?" So I had to learn how to teach things that kids like, and how to use music in a fun way for kids of all ages, right? Like I had grade 1, 2, and 3, all the way to grade 8, and I couldn't teach them the same thing, all the students, right? Like, and I think something I didn't know before teachers college is like the developmental side of kids and their brains, and like what you can expect kids to know at certain ages, and or like what kids can actually process, right? Like I remember asking kids to do like ridiculous things, and I was like, why can't you? Right? So I think managing my expectations for kids and teaching them the right things, and making lessons fun, that's all part of the process, right? Of being a good teacher, and yeah, and teaching music to be fun and not like a competitive thing or stressful. Right? Just making kids comfortable in like a musical setting. I think that goes for all ages, like even for adults, like in university, right? Like I was an adult when I was a student at university, and I think the teachers for the most part did a good job of making me feel comfortable. But I think as students, maybe we could do a better job, especially at U of T, of making like everyone feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that looking back now, like I have that wisdom now that I'm like a sagely old. No, I'm not old, but just like you gain more experience and knowledge, right? And then you look at things in a completely different way.
I wanted to.
I kind of rambled and went off topic there, but
No.
I hope that was
okay. Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I wanted to ask, you mentioned, so you picked up a bunch of stuff during Teachers College, during your 2-year program. And I just wanted to ask, sort of how was it structured? Because I know a lot of my friends in the music program and outside of it are planning on going into Teachers College. And so I have a vague idea of sort of how it works, but I just wanted to ask specifically, like, so you have your you had like a good few years of music education, and then you moved on to Teachers College. Was there any sort of like overlap where did they sort of show you? Did they approach each person as like, oh, you're planning on going into music education, or that it was just 2 years of like standard how to be a teacher, and then you sort of had to like actually learn the specifics of music, like teaching music. So yeah, I just wanted to ask, sort of how was that?
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
I kind of wish it was the way you're describing, like, oh, you want to be a music teacher? Okay, like let's go through this stuff. It wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
It's comfortable in like a musical setting. I think that goes for all ages, like even for adults, like in university, right? Like I was an adult when I was a student at university, and I think the teachers, for the most part, did a good job of making me feel comfortable.
Hmm.
But I think as students, maybe we could do a better job, especially at U of T, of making like everyone feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that looking back now, like I have that wisdom now that I'm like a sagely old. No, I'm not old, but just like you gain more experience and knowledge, right? And then
Yeah.
you look at things in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
wanted to.
I kind of rambled and went off topic there, but
No, no, no.
I
It's
hope
all
that was
right.
okay.
uh, uh, yeah, no, it's totally fine. I wanted to ask, you mentioned, yeah, so you picked up a bunch of stuff during Teachers College, during your 2-year program. And I just wanted to ask, sort of how was it structured? Because I know a lot of my friends in the music program and outside of it are planning on going into Teachers College. And so I have a vague idea of sort of how it works, but I just wanted to ask specifically, like, so you have your you had like a good few years of music education, and then you moved on to teachers college. Was there any sort of like overlap where did they sort of show you, did they approach each person as like, oh, you're planning on going into music education, or that it was just 2 years of like standard how to be a teacher, and then you sort of had to like actually learn the specifics of music, like teaching music? So yeah, I just wanted to ask, sort of how was
That's a
that?
very good question.
Thank you.
You know, I kind of wish it was the way you're describing, like, oh, you want to be a music teacher? Okay, like, let's go through this stuff. It wasn't like
Yeah.
that at all.
Okay. Ask, sort of how was it structured? Because I know a lot of my friends in the music program and outside of it are planning on going into teachers college, and so I have a vague idea of sort of how it works. But I just wanted to ask specifically, like, so you have your you had like a good few years of music education, and then you moved on to teachers college. Was there any sort of like overlap where did they sort of show you, did they approach each person as like, oh, you're planning on going into music education, or that it was just 2 years of like standard how to be a teacher, and then you sort of had to like actually learn the specifics of music, like teaching music? So yeah, I just wanted to ask, sort of how was
That's a
that?
very good question.
Thank you.
You know, I kind of wish it was the way you're describing, like, oh, you want to be a music teacher? Okay, like, let's go through this stuff. It wasn't like
Yeah.
that at all.
Okay.
Teachers college, like, I was in a cohort, so it was like 20 of us or 22 of us, and only 4 of us were male, and I was the only one that wanted to be a music teacher. So I was like kind of a little different. But,
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, it was kind of, it was standard education for all the students, right? Like, this is how to be a teacher, not like a music teacher, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a little weird in that sense. It was difficult for me to
Mm.
stay focused all the time on everything, because I was like, in the back of my mind, oh, I just want to be a music teacher. Like, I don't want to learn about like storybook telling or anything
Yeah.
like that. But like, getting a music teacher job is hard, right? So
Mm.
I didn't really understand that I might not be able to be a music teacher right away. Um, I ended up getting a music teacher job, but like, I could have started as like a grade 3 teacher, right? And like not been able to teach music to my students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was pretty standard, like how to be a teacher. had to teach like math and science, geography, but there was no like music class really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know U of T has that like undergraduate music education stream, but obviously if any like if I mean judging by your path and sort of what you ended up doing, there was no need to do that in order to actually become a teacher. I guess it just like I guess it just is skill building. It just sort of gives you that opportunity to learn right from the bat or right off the bat. But so did it take a while for you to sort of like, was that something you just had to do independently, like taking all your lessons that you learned on how to be a teacher and then just injecting music? Was that really difficult for the, like, let's say with your first proper teaching position after you graduated? Did it from teachers college, I mean, was it sort of a bit like a big adjustment, or did you find that like the way it's laid out did allow you to just sort of like you felt you gained the skills you needed, and now you're just using those skills but to teach music? Was it a big adjustment, or really not at all?
I don't know if there was a big adjustment. So when I was in teachers college, we would always have to make lessons and like big lesson plans, and I would always kind of like incorporate music, or I would try to.
Hmm.
If I had to showcase a math lesson, I would have like a short piece in there where I would like sing about math stuff, or like if I did a religion lesson or something, I always have like some type of song or music
Hmm.
in like cross curricular. So that helped me when I got out of school and I got into actual teaching,
Hmm.
because I would, find a way to, interject music, to make it fun for the kids. Because like music's a good way to make things like song, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, what was the other part of your question? Sorry, I feel like I
No,
didn't
it was
answer it.
just that was pretty much it. It was sort of long-winded question. I've asked a lot of those, so thank you for keeping up. But yeah, pretty much just uh, whether or not it was easy to take the lessons you learned from teachers college and apply it in a music setting. But it seems like it did prepare you pretty much directly, and you were able to sort of inject music in everything you learned. Um, yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask also, um, did you find, I mean, you said it's a good way of getting kids to sort of pay attention and enjoy it a little bit more. But was there any, have you done any sort of research on like uh, the value of actual like teaching, like what music education can do to influence other areas? Because part of my job here at Bandology is doing that. One of our things is sort of researching the long-term value of music education. And I really like what you were saying about just how, like one of the reasons why you were in a really good position and it really helped you out later on as a teacher, just having that music skill. Because I think a lot of teachers, they don't have any sort of, they don't have like a bag of tricks to pull out to make anything interesting. They just sort of have what they learned at teachers college and that's it. And they have their teachables obviously, but I think music specifically is like such a valuable method of teaching, because like, for example, you were talking about math, like you could teach math through music, like literally taking a song and putting like taking it apart. So yeah, I guess maybe just through the lens of team schools, I guess an entry into that whole world. Um, yeah, so that's really great to hear. I wanted to ask a little bit about that. Yeah. So did you, uh, you haven't been able to actually see any of that like in the real world, I guess?
Okay, so like, yeah, so it was hard at team school. It's hard to see if it's affecting students or like it's improving their discipline or anything like that.
Mm.
But I will say, like, as a teacher, like, if you're enthusiastic about music and what you're teaching them, it will it will transfer, and the students will pick up on that, and they'll be enthusiastic,
Mm.
and they'll want to learn and perform and be interested, right?
Yeah.
As long as you show them how fun it can be, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know for sure there's like most of my musical development happened with like amazing teachers who were able to sort of show what to expect and like not even like fantastic playing ability, but just like they showed a genuine love for the music. And um, yeah, I really think that's like played a really important role in my sort of development as a musician. So it's really great to hear that, you know, there are teachers like you who are, you know, teaching really young, like younger kids, and sort of starting the love for music like super early on. Because I don't know, uh, uh, I'm not sure if there are a great deal of um, like really, really dedicated elementary music teachers. I know there's plenty of like middle schools or yeah, middle school, sort of high schools where you really see like fantastic band teachers and they have like a great deal of funding and the schools have like a huge amount of instruments and like a really good programs. But I've never really heard of like a fantastic elementary school music program, which is a real shame, um, because it seems like, you know, why are we putting so much money into sort of later years? Obviously, instruments cost a lot, and younger kids don't need to have that sort of thing. But I think that's generally like a big gap in the. Though I can't really speak for that because I'm not part of um, uh, the board, or I don't really know anything about teaching in Ontario, music education or any sort of education for that matter. But have you found that? Have you noticed? Was that ever sort of? Did that ever come across that sort of I guess the pay disparity between, you know, even I even know in terms of like looking at it as a career, there's a big difference between, you know, younger elementary school, like teaching younger kids and older kids. Um, have you noticed that at all, or am I just grasping at straws?
Uh, no, but what I was thinking of when you were talking about dedicated elementary school music teachers, like, I definitely didn't have any of those when I was growing up. I remember I didn't have music in elementary school. Like, I almost feel like I want to give students something I didn't have.
Hmm.
I didn't have the chance to play with instruments or like do just like simple clapping and rhythm stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I believe music should be a subject that's like taught not just like at one part of the year, but like, you should have music every week, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know, but yeah, for sure. I think I was a little lucky in terms of how um, uh, uh, the particular program, like the schools I went to, they had like fantastic music programs in high school specifically, and that really like helped me out in terms of like really showed me, you know, I was with plenty of like-minded students, and it was a really good opportunity and a good experience. But for sure, I don't think I had a great deal of elementary music training. So I definitely agree. I think it's you know, especially after doing all sorts of research on the benefits of it, it's like it's really clear how important it should be, and that changes like should be made in terms of um, that whole approach to like younger kids and teaching them. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I wanted to ask. We've talked so much about sort of your career right now in terms of teaching, and I just wanted to say, or I wanted to ask, have you kept up with music? U of T is a pretty like the 4 years at U of T for most people I know is like, you know, it's all music. Their entirety like of their existence is just playing their instrument and practicing and everything. And then when you leave, depending on what career you go into, obviously it's harder or easier. And you're in a bit of a tricky sort of halfway point because you're teaching music, so I guess you are around it. But I wanted to ask a little bit on whether or not you've kept up any of that rigorous practice, or if
The
it's sort of gone
shedding.
off to the wayside,
Yeah.
or yeah. So I just wanted to ask if it's still like as big of a part of your life. Um,
Um, yeah, music is definitely a big part of my life. I don't know if it's as big as it was when I went to U of T. Um, I would say I certainly have a healthier relationship now with music than I did when I was at U of T. Like I still practice, but I don't practice every day,
hmm,
and I'm not like super hard on myself like I used to be.
hmm,
I remember at U of T, if I didn't practice, like let's say like, oh, I only practiced 1 hour today. I would be like, I have to practice 3 or 4 hours tomorrow. Or
hmm.
I would like beat myself up. Oh, I didn't even practice this thing today. Now I have to wake up early and do it tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
whereas now I'm like, I only practice what I want to learn or I want to play. Like,
Yeah.
I used to practice things that I didn't like at all, and like, scales.
Yeah.
Now I just work on what I want to do. That out, I'll lift it and I'll shed it.
Hmm.
But I won't really. I'm just not as hard on myself, and like I have a better relationship with music. I learn pop songs by ear and like funk stuff,
Yeah.
whereas like I would only really like shed jazz and
No, that's so do you think you have like do you think your change in perspective on practice regime has like changed your view on music? Because I know or at least speaking from my experience, like going through the program, you get a really like thin, I guess, narrow view of what music is. And a lot of people define music as like success and less about like actually enjoying it and more about like being the best. And like it's like a almost like a sport, you know? And so have you seen like have you uh has that moving away from that sort of super hyper competitive atmosphere, has it changed your outlook on music at all in any sort of way? Do you view it a little bit differently or anything like that?
yeah, I do view it more differently, and I think I accept certain things. I accept certain sounds and certain music that I probably wouldn't like
Hmm.
accept or listen to when I was
Yeah.
younger. Um, and I hear things in different ways. I don't know. It's hard to say. I was a little stuck up when I went to U of T. Like I was kind of like a pure traditionalist.
I think
I
we
al-
all are.
but yeah, like there's so much music, and yeah, just accepting mistakes, right? Like in recordings and in your own playing and things like that, and just like having fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, music is a whole nother world, right?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a loaded question. How has your entire perspective of music shifted? Uh, so I'll give you like a week maybe to think about it, and you can get back to me over email or something.
Yeah, sure,
With
sure.
no, I know I've been like that's something
Oh,
I've yeah yeah
I was gonna say that when you put so much pressure on yourself, music is a lot harder. Like, and the music is really hard at U of T, as you know. Like, an ensemble, like other students bring in crazy sheet music, or like your prof or your ensemble leader be like, okay, you got to read this,
Hmm.
and you put all this pressure on yourself to read the music and right to perform, right? And like with me, my ego always got in the way because I wanted to show people how good I was. But when you put all that pressure on yourself, like you can't perform at your best.
Yeah, yeah,
So you always perform better, and it's easier said than done. But when you just
yeah,
take the pressure off, and like it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, like just try to read this music and try to like figure it out, right?
yeah.
Don't don't try to be a hero.
I think ego is a huge uh issue with like pretty much just, I guess, music in general, I'd say. If
Yeah.
if I'm able to say that, just sort of like dealing with your practically everybody has some sort of imposter syndrome, or they're overconfident in their abilities. It's such a weird like place to,
or underconfident, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's such a weird place to find yourself as like a professional musician, and especially as a student when you're still like sort of figuring things out, and you're not entirely like, you're not very confident in your abilities, because there are people like way better than you, and you sort of have the mindset of a student. But definitely, like, I think that's a serious problem, that a lot of people have to, like, it takes years and years to figure out and sort of get a handle on it. Because I totally agree. It's like, that's probably one of the easiest ways to shoot yourself in the foot in terms of being like a musician at all, and like being an artist. Like having having to deal with your ego, and like being worried about what other people think and what you seem to be like, and how, like, just all that, like a whole mess of things that comes up.
yeah. And
And
like,
I
do
don't,
other people think I'm heavy?
yeah, yeah. And I'm not sure if there's any other, like, other than the arts, obviously, I don't think there's any other, like, any other thing like that. I know, um, like teaching, for example, nobody's like, oh, I wonder if, like, obviously there's a little bit, I'm sure, but have you noticed, is there any sort of like, oh, like, I really hope, um, I don't know. I mean, with my like basic idea of teaching, like the few lessons that I've done, I'm always worried about the kids, like whether or not the kids are enjoying it. But I don't particularly think, like, I don't worry if like the parents are like, am I a good teacher, like,
Yeah.
truly, or like, I think it's really weird. It's like, it's only music where everybody's like hypercritical of themselves, and then anything else, it's sort of like, well, have you noticed, like a huge difference in terms of professional musician, professional teacher?
There's some similarities for sure. Um, One thing you definitely can't fall into as a teacher is like caring about whether your students like you or not. That's a trap. Like, you can't, because it's not your job to be the student's friend, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
if a student doesn't like you, just doesn't matter, right? It's not your job for them to like to,
yeah,
right? Like, as long as they're learning, that's more important, right? Don't be a
yeah.
grump. Like, be a nice teacher, but like, don't ever care whether your students like you or not, because
Mm.
that's not important.
Huh.
You know, it's important that doesn't mean that you can't have fun. Like, can't be a fun teacher, and like they might think you're funny or like whatever, but don't worry about whether they like you.
Yeah,
Just do your best to teach them.
yeah.
Right? It's your job to inform. Um, and yeah, don't care what other teachers think of you too, because there's always teachers who are going to look down on you, and they might think, oh, like, what is Mr. Mason doing? Like, he's playing music again for his kids. He doesn't teach them anything.
Yeah,
But then there might be another teacher who's like, I really admire Mr. Mason for playing music for his kids. Like, I think that's really cool.
yeah,
Right? There's always people um, who think down on you or think good things about you too.
yeah.
But you just gotta like not. That's that ego, right? You gotta like
Mm.
shut that ego out.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I guess most jobs that you sort of get into in terms of when you're properly like establishing a career and all of that, I guess it does play a bigger role than I initially thought. I'm in like a jazz bubble, so most of the stuff I think about is related to music, and um, I'm sure once I get out into the world and actually, uh, um, see things a little bit differently and move a bit away, get some more perspective. Um, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty that I still need to figure out about the professional world and all of that. Um, but thank you so much
Me too.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really great place to sort of leave it. I just wanted to ask maybe one last thing in terms of uh, quickly. Just we have Bandology has a sort of fast fact or a fast five section, sorry, where we just sort of ask five quick questions. But before we do that, as sort of the last proper question, I wanted to ask if you sort of what your future is looking like, what you're sort of planning on doing, if there's anything coming up, there's any sort of any music that you're recording or anything like that. Yeah. So, is there anything sort of in the future of that you can see at least?
I'd like to continue teaching music at team school. I want to start my own business, music teaching business.
Mm.
So that's in the future. I've been recording my own music under the name John O.
Mm.
I don't know if you wanted to check some of that out.
Yeah.
I have music on Spotify and iTunes under the name John O.
John
And it's
O.
like,
All right.
yeah, it's not jazz music. It's like pop, actually, like rock
Mm.
pop stuff that I've been doing. Yeah, so I'm going to be recording some more music and putting it out.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd like to get more into jazz again. Like I'm playing, but I haven't been like performing at all. And I know things are opening up and people are playing downtown, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Outside only right now, but at least that's nice that we got some live music, live jazz, right?
Yeah, no, it's things are opening up a little bit. I've seen quite a few, like short little restaurant gigs, patios and stuff, and busking too. Busking's been a big thing just because it's the only way to like play outside, really. Though, yeah. So, uh, yeah, if I mean, if you ever want to jam or anything like that, uh, definitely that could be that would be very fun.
Yeah, I'm down. So
Yeah,
you play drums, right?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Do you have people over at your house with like a upright bass player and stuff like that?
I have right now. I'm living at home, but I'm planning on moving downtown next year, and in that case, I think I'm gonna get. I think I'm planning on moving in with. Well, I'm planning on moving in with some classmates, so definitely there will be other musicians there. But yeah,
Yeah, it'd be a good idea if you could move in with a bass player, right? And then that way
yeah, yeah,
you can always like jam and work on your
yeah.
time and stuff.
Exactly. Just, days on end, even if
Yeah,
quarantine, if like a second wave hits or anything like that, just sitting down and being able to play time, just set up a ride cymbal and
yeah,
just,
right. Quarter
just
notes.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely check out the your Spotify. I've been releasing some music as well, so it'll be cool to I'm always really interested to see specifically production based stuff, people that work on their own music, and it's a little bit less like live performance and it's more actual produced stuff. The part
Yeah,
like it's always interesting to see how people differ in terms of what they're interested in terms of live music and then produced. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I forgot to mention you're going to be playing something right at the end of the interview as well, right?
oh yeah, that's right.
All right, yeah, perfect. So I'll just finish it up with these fast five questions. I'll paste them in the chat so that I don't have to ask every single one.
Oh sure, okay.
So you could just fire it off. So the first, there.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Click the wrong button. But so the first one of the fast five questions: your favorite movie soundtrack. The second is a hidden talent you have. The third, an instrument that you don't play but you wish you played. The fourth, if you could spend an afternoon with any musician or band, who would it be and why? And the last one, who was your musical inspiration growing up?
Okay, these are tough. Favorite music, favorite movie soundtrack? I don't know that stuff. I like this one, Back to the Future.
Mm,
But I like all the Spielberg movies. They all have good soundtracks. They're
yeah.
all like, it's all like John Williams.
Yeah.
I think Jurassic Park, I love Jurassic Park. That soundtrack's great. Hidden talent? Um, hidden talent. I don't know. What's your hidden? Do you have a hidden talent, Mark?
My hidden talent, well, the one that I used, these questions get asked a whole bunch during a lot of our events, so you sort of have to get like a one that you prep. This is my hidden talent. You can go like this, and you can move one finger this way, and then your other finger this way, and it's like a
Whoa,
serious coordination exercise, and it
is
takes
it?
like quite a bit of practice. It seems very easy, but you can do stuff like where you speed it up or slow
I
it
don't.
down.
I don't even want to try it.
It
I'm
messes
not.
with your mind. It's probably best if you work on it on your own, away from the camera, because it's
That's like a
definitely, when I started practicing, it's like ridiculous. It's so difficult to. Yeah, exactly. It's just another way to.
definitely a drummer thing.
Yeah, it's a good coordination exercise, but
Okay, hidden talent. I don't even know. Hidden talent. What can I do that's hidden?
well, as of now, I don't really know a lot. So you could say like anything. It doesn't have to be something like that's like deep down. You don't show
Yeah.
anybody.
Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that hidden talent, Mark.
All right, no, that's all right. That's all right.
That's a tough one. An instrument you wish you played. I do play the piano, but I wish I played it a lot better than I do.
Uh,
I wish I could. I wish I could really tinkle the ivories, like like jazz. Like I wish I could play like boogie woogie
yeah.
piano and like all that kind of stuff. Or saxophone. I wish I could play saxophone.
Hmm.
And if I could spend an afternoon with any musician or band, who would it be and why? Oh, that's tough. So many musicians. Um,
You could do a top three if you'd like.
Top three. It'd be cool to chill with Miles Davis for a day and just
Oh,
like pick his brain. Um, Maybe Lenny Bro.
hmm.
Lenny Bro, the guitarist. Or maybe like Bach. It'd be cool to chill with Bach and like just like yeah, figure out how he did all that stuff, how he wrote the inventions and like this. Yeah, Bach. That'd be cool.
Hmm.
Um, Musical inspiration growing up. It was probably like Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton or like who else do I listen to? Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Hmm.
I really like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Um, yeah, just guitarists. I like Slash too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses Slash.
Yeah, yeah. I was a big fan of Jimi Hendrix when I started out on drums. Uh, like I went through a bit of a rock phase. It didn't go on for very long, and I never really like. I was not a huge fanatic about it, but one of my favorite. You try to have a good wide perspective of the genre, and so I was never a big fan of drummers that could only name other drummers. So I made sure to listen to plenty of varying instrumentalists, and Jimi Hendrix was definitely like one of the first people that I was like actually blown away with his ability. Like, yeah, I don't know if there was ever like like a virtuoso before that I was like, when you're a kid and you're learning about like classical music, like Mozart, you don't really think that they're very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I
later
know.
on, you can truly understand like what made them amazing and why they were so like innovative and incredible for their time. But I think the first person that I really like was amazed with was Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Me too, man. Just crazy.
Oh. All right. Well, I think as the interview is coming to a close, I do know I just asked if you were going to play something. So, I mean,
Oh
if now's
yeah.
the time, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so this is a jazz standard called My Ideal.
Thanks so much for that. That was it's one of my favorite tunes. So it was when you said the name, I was like, man, I'm really looking forward to it. But that was really pretty. Thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Mark.
yeah. So thanks again for coming on. I really enjoyed having you, and I'm sure thanks to everybody who tuned in to watch, and I'm sure they all enjoyed it as well. So I know you mentioned you're releasing some music on Spotify, so I'll be sure to include that as well. So if people want, they can check that out. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and yeah.
Thanks for having me.